Hello, this is Bearheart. I'm here on Awakened Nation with Brad Salas.
A huge shift is taking place on planet Earth. People seem to be waking up. Tired of the way things used to be, they are creating something brand new and changing the world we live in. My name is Brad Salas, and I get to sit down with the next generation of idea makers, the disruptors, and the game changers. Everyday people, just like you and me, from all over, who are doing amazing things. Welcome to Awakened Nation.
Yeah, there we go. The call of the wild. My call was laughing soul. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a brother on today, a brother of the leaf, a spiritual brother. I've been dying to get him on the show. A powerful healer, Frank Sebastian Saputo, but I know him more endearingly by the name of Bearheart because he has a heart as big as a bear. Welcome, brother. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for creating this opportunity for us to be on with each other and to share in such beautiful and intimate and exciting space. I appreciate it very much.
It is. And my listeners, a lot of times, and we'll go into this, but some of the healing modalities that are out there, they're really coming to the surface incredibly fast, both ancient medicine as well as new stuff like eutaptics and all these things. And I think there's a reason that these healing modalities are coming to the surface right now. What do you think? I think we're on a spiritual speeding up.
I would agree with you, Brad. And from a perspective of, I think the majority are not just willing to go with the flow anymore and just eat what's being fed to them.
Right.
But we're actually in a time of awareness and of self-awareness. And when that happens, we get to step into a little bit more sovereignty with inside of self and to understand that it's not going to be one way for everybody. And that we get an opportunity to be able to dive into that and experience our own awakening as we so choose.
Powerful stuff. I'm going to read a little bit of your bio real quick. Some call you a medicine man, a shaman, animal whisperer, spiritual guide, healer, and psychic. What Bearheart does is incredibly powerful, and that's why I wanted him on the show today. He facilitates the indigenous sacred ceremonies of plant medicine. Medicines such as Ayahuasca, Cannabis, Kambo, peyote. This is for deep emotional and physical healing. He also oversees vision quests and initiations, rites of passage for men, women, young adults, and families. His work is to ignite your inner fire, to step fully into your highest integrity and get in touch with your wild man or wild woman that lives deep inside us all. Today, we explore ceremonial plant medicine and healing and the sacred journey of healing. Welcome to the show, officially, Bearheart.
Wait, did you write that or did I?
I wrote that, accumulated.
That sounded darn good.
I accumulated everything you put out there, and we're going to go more into what you wrote.
That was great.
Thanks, brother.
That summed it all up, bro. Great job.
Thank you. Yeah.
And you actually... you have personal account of what it's like to be in a initiation of sorts and a journey and to be able to link heart to heart with me. So I think that this is it's a beautiful opportunity to be able to hear your reflection back. Thank you.
Yeah, when we use the term brother or sister in the sacred circle, it's beyond this lifetime, and the friends that we make in that sacred circle of healing are brothers and sisters for life. I still reach out to the people who are in my circle, and it is powerful because we're going to talk today about healing family trauma, which is what my experience was. And I also have to give a shout out to Mike, who introduced us. Also, his tribal name is Tatanka. A powerful shaman, powerful healer as well. And I consider him one of my closest friends that I've met later in life. And we're going to talk about really what got you into this work, because it is a sacred work, if I can put it out there. So let's get started for our listeners, because a lot of people, they see this weird word and they don't know what it is. But what is ayahuasca, and what does it do for healing? And if you can explain all of the plant modalities that you use in the healing circle.
Mm-hmm. Good question. What is ayahuasca? Ayahuasca is a friend. Ayahuasca is an energy. Ayahuasca is a teacher. Ayahuasca has been called by many names. And that specific medicine is a combination of the vine and chacruna, and two plants that come from South America that, when concocted, creates a brew or a tea, a very thick tea, a viscous tea. Mm-hmm. And that viscous tea taps into the natural dimethyltryptamine, the DMT, that's already within our pineal gland in our brain, that creates an opportunity for us to feel source itself. Gives us an opportunity to have what some people would call visions. Gives us an opportunity to feel more.
Right.
And it's an energy that's, when circulating inside of you, it creates a momentum of energy to be able to be released, also known as a purgative. And so the majority of the time, there's some type of energy that's being purged, usually toxic energy that's been stored inside the body systems. And that could be within the liver, that could be within the mental space, that could be within the body, and different traumas that have happened to the body, and a plethora of different ways. But to truly answer your question, ayahuasca and that specific energy is a very, very profound medicine and a dear ally.
Yes. And some of the history of this, I want you to talk about, but this has been around for eras, millennial. Mm-hmm. And from Canada to South America, I've heard of this where, after going to war, some of these tribes, they had to have a way of healing the warrior, because all warriors since the beginning of time have had PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. And what happens is they would come back from war and they wouldn't let them get into the tribe yet. They made them go off for 30 days, a full moon cycle, and drink, whatever brew that tribe had. Ayahuasca is the most, maybe the most popular right now, but it was a way of healing. Let's talk about that a little bit, because this has a rich history of healing emotions, traumas, scars that could have made people come back to the tribe and just been mean. Mm-hmm. Share with us a little bit of that history.
So, I can only go off of my own personal account, and I think that's all anyone can really truly go off of, no matter what generation by generation by generation says. There's been healing ways in every indigenous peoples from spanning all over the world. And all indigenous peoples usually went through similar things in life, which there would have been war, there would have been famine, there would have been times of co-creating with one another, there would have been times of migration, and so on. And so while these medicines have been around since the beginning of time, it was really up to the discretion of the ones who were the medicine keepers, who really worked with the medicines so much, worked on themselves so much, that naturally the tribe or clan would go to those people and ask them questions. They would naturally go to those ones and ask them of what's happening inside of them, and which plants were going to be the ones that were going to help the most and the most effective and efficient, and whether or not it was going to be plants at all, because there's many, many, many different ways to heal. There's many, many, many different ways for ourselves to be able to allow the energy that's stuck inside of self, and or the programming or the past storylines and narratives and traumas, for us to be able to allow that to flow and to see it from a different perspective. Now, when it comes to ayahuasca, nobody truly understands how the people of South America understood to concoct two different plants that grew at completely different altitudes and to be able to create that tea. However, what we do know is that all over the world, on every single continent, there's medicine. And whether or not that be psilocybe cubensis and the different types of fungi, or that would be the mescaline medicines as far as peyote and San Pedro, or whether that be bufol varios and or Kambo coming from frogs and toads. You know, there's so many different ways to be able to connect to ourselves through nature. And in the medicinal ways, those are the most common. That in Africa it would be boga, right? Those are the most common that we know today, or that we're hearing about today. And when it comes to what you had said, to come full circle, when it comes to the warrior, or when it comes to ones with what they call PTSD, you know, all of the medicines can help with confusion. And essentially, like when I hear PTSD, I hear that there has been a level of confusion that's creating a struggle big enough to where it's not only affecting ourselves, but it's affecting others that are around us. And these medicines, if worked with in an appropriate way, if being able to have safe and healthy space to be able to journey and to go through these experiences, not just into these experiences, but actually through these experiences, that it can be very healing. It could be very, very therapeutic. And 99.9% of the time are. So the statistics are there, the stats are there, the amount of longevity of being able to work with these medicines are there. And yeah, specifically, I would say for the warriors, I think it's extremely important for any peoples that are put into or put themselves into scenarios where it is up to them to make very, very wise decisions in very short periods of time, to be able to self-select when they know that they may not be the most clear-headed or clear emotional, to be able to live in a healthy environment, especially if we're talking about living in some type of community. Because if you know, and back in the day, it was very much more community living, and so how you acted and reacted on a daily basis meant something. Now there's so much of a lone wolf mentality where you can board yourself into a box and into another box and into another box, and where most of the time at that point we feel like we're doing it alone. And I would say that's the number one issue that I see. It's not so much that people have quote unquote PTSD, or they have trauma that they're working through, or they're confused at different things that have happened in life. The common thread of working with thousands of people now, just specifically in these ways, is they feel alone. And when we come into circle, we automatically do not feel alone anymore. And so when we are part of something, not a part of something, it creates an opportunity where, especially if there's a safe environment, it doesn't matter who it is or what's happened in their life. Most of us know exactly what's happened. We are looking for opportunities to be able to learn more about that and to be able to heal in ways that create more of the symbiosis for ourselves and everyone around us. One of which is ayahuasca.
Wow, that's a powerful explanation for this type of medicine, this healing. And yeah, I think in our modern world, we've really gotten separated from that intuition of just beingness, making wise decisions and enjoying life, and getting to be able to sit in circle is one of those moments where we come back to self. And when I say self, I mean soul. I mean the true heart of who we are.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I just want to touch on what you just had spoke. It's really about coming back to self. And some things some things happen in life. And a lot of the time we're brainwashed into different ways of thinking where we forget that we are a part of everything. Yeah, we have a piece of the whole inside of us. And if we forget what that feels like, if we forget what that sounds like, if we forget that this is the dimension of senses and sensory perception, and being able to feel the wind on our face, being able to feel the chill of the water and to know that we are the water as well, essentially being everything and nothing all at the same time, if that is ever forgotten, there are many ways. The medicine give us an opportunity to put our consciousness offline, so that way the subconscious can either drain or see things from a different perspective, so we can remember that we are the presence that sometimes we're seeking with external validation.
Right.
And so if we're not alone anymore, if we have these ways and understandings of the ways, and people that are actually learning directly from the medicines, so that's a big one these days, man. And I appreciate how everyone is a student. However, what I find more than not is that there are a lot of students of people who used to be students of the plants, where I have always understood, because this work started for me at a very, very young age, and I didn't have the humans to be able to tell me how my ancestors did it or how another ancestors did it. I directly had the opportunity in an authentic way to listen to the plants themselves. And so that for me is a big one these days, is for the medicine people that are in those positions to remember that it's a wonderful it's a wonderful piece of the story, is to be able to work similarly as our ancestors did. But there's also a huge gap in that, because there's the direct line to source that we could be listening to that's pure and and in no way confusing.
Yeah.
And so that for me has been a continued path of just deepening the relationships and deepening the intimacy within these relationships with the teachers and what I consider family. And that's the plants and that's the animals.
Powerful, man. I want to hear a little bit about your journey, because you started out life a certain way and something happened to make you just say, I got to do something better. And I'd love for you to share that, because you're a testament of being able to really, truly turn your life around 180 degrees. And I would love for you to share that if you can, Bearheart.
Thank you. Yeah, I look at myself as just an average person, walking day by day, going through life, whatever comes, and creating an opportunity to have the least amount of confusion, least amount of struggle. Mm-hmm. I was born into a family where there was some confusion. And, I was at a very early age, I was being prepped for prison. I was being prepped for the streets. I was being prepped to be a manipulator. I was being prepped to essentially be the predator of predators. And whether or not that was going to serve me in gangs, which I was a part of, if that was going to serve me in different criminal organizations, which I was a part of, if that was going to serve me in the military, whatever and whichever way my training was going to serve me, it was very strong. Yeah, I would consider it being born into very strong medicine. And the medicine work started for me when I was 8 years old. That's where working with plants came into my life. And I look at it from the perspective of, it's one of the only ways that I have been able to stay alive, and one of the only ways that I've been able to see things from different perspectives, and not so much of just the one who's the one feeling it in the moment. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, I grew up, there's no easy or clear way to say it, other than I grew up very much of what somebody would consider like a thug. Mm-hmm. And now I just simply consider myself an integrated thug, because there's always going to be every part of our life that's a part of our book, our life's book, our life story. However, what I've learned is instead of, and whether that be gangs or whether that be prison or whether that be one of the many different schools that I've been a part of in this life, it's given me an opportunity to not get stuck in any one chapter. It's given me an opportunity to look at this book of life in a way of, if I'm still sensing some type of confusion and some type of struggle, I can go back within my own book. I can flip back to the chapters of where that originated from and where the seedlings of that confusion were started and we're starting to sprout. And I can see it from that perspective of, oh, that's what was happening. This is the way that everything panned out. These were the patterns and these were the different systems that were put into place for me to be able to stay alive. And this is where there's still maybe some type of confusion that I can look at and reprogram right now. Because I could see it not only from the one who lived it, and the one in the presence of it, but I could also see it from the witness perspective, which is what I try to help people with. Is not even to change, it's to integrate. But to integrate, we get to see it from another perspective. And what better way than to be a witness of our own book? And so as we can flip back through the book of life and we can look where the confusion has been, understand, reprogram, get a good understanding of how we can now move forward in a much more healthy, aligned, effective, and efficient way. Now, let's come back to not forgetting that we are the one writing the book. It's not the universe writing the book for us. We've already written the book. We're hoping that the universe continues to show it and to be the reflection of it. And so for me, yeah, I know the exact opposite of love. I know the exact opposite of safety. I know the exact opposite of freedom. And I know the exact opposite of truth, which is why those are the 4 key fundamental pillars that are within my life that I do not falter on. And to be able to be an example, and for me, not a good, bad, or indifferent, just simply the most aligned now. Not yesterday, and not worrying about how I'm going to do it tomorrow. Now. And so that's what I've done. I've simply integrated all of the life schools, and I'm continuing to integrate all of the life schools as I continue to move throughout this life and do the best and be the best example I can as a father, as a papa for my children, so they can see and feel and smell and taste and understand what a healthy example of a father is in this day and age that is being a representation of pure love, freedom, safety, and truth. And for that, the energy that comes through is what I know is the sacred force, or la fuerza sagrada, which is what's tattooed all across my chest. And to remind, as a daily reminder, that I am everything and I'm nothing all at the same time. So what am I going to do with that?
Powerful words. Powerful words. Well, you mentioned your daughters, and I remember that was one of your driving forces. You realized you were in the middle of this gang stuff, and you realized you weren't going to live. If you stayed in it, you weren't going to live to see them get raised. And that just touched my heart when you talked about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yes. And as I continue to integrate all of it, living the life that I used to live, it's true. And you don't live long, and you definitely don't have a quality of life for very long. Then transitioning into prison and going through the youth authority and being stripped of my name and turning into Ward 86745. I knew I wasn't going to be able to have a quality of life long if I was going to remain in the penal system as well. And truly what all I was looking at and all I was looking for was love. And I found what I thought love was on the streets. I found what I thought love was in gangs. I found what I thought love was in partners. I thought it was love, and rightfully so. All we know is what we know. but it was always skewed. It was never what I later understood of what was pure until I met the mother of my children. And that was the first essence of the purity of love, other than from a mother or a father or a grandmother. And so that was a part of the storyline of where I made the conscious decision to step into alignment. However, it wasn't until my brother was murdered where I got to really show up for how much I had changed. You know, it was almost a decade after I had been released from prison. And up until that time, everything was trying to do my darndest to be the healthiest, most productive part of society. You know, I looked at it from a perspective of, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. I'm going to have the best job and become a business owner. I'm going to have the most beautiful wife and beautiful children and multiple houses, and everything that everyone in society looked at as they wanted that as well for themselves. I was dying inside. I was absolutely dying because I hadn't integrated all of it. And then my brother, who I was raised as like a twin, we were 6 weeks apart. He was murdered by his girlfriend.
Wow.
And that was a level of betrayal. And I've known betrayal in my life to all varying degrees, but for that to happen, it put me in a position of where I thought, like, oh, you've healed. You've healed from the predator inside. You've healed from the one who hunted humans. You've healed from the one who manipulated everyone unless they were your blood family. Because I was raised with different codes. One of those codes was making sure that I didn't create any trauma for women, children, or any form of innocence. And that was the deepest code as I was being raised and as I was going through gangs, because it wasn't the code of the gangs, but it was the code of my family. It was the code of my initial programming. And so when my brother was murdered by the woman who he loved, it was the closest part of my life where I was going to break the internal code. And revenge and getting even and an eye for an eye. Like it wouldn't have been something that I would have been looked wrongly upon, even by my family. They would have understood.
Right.
It would have been very simple to say, oh, okay, well, you know, he took revenge. And, you know, the way I even thought about it up until that point was, it'll be a crime of passion. I'll be out within this many years. My daughters will still have a chance to know who their father is. Like I even started to go back into that thought process. And I had to stop myself. And I got to stop myself. Because it was the opportunity where I was willing to take full accountability for what my actions have been and what my actions were going to be. And that's where I got to choose love. Because love didn't matter when everything was great. Forgiveness doesn't matter when everything is honky-dory. Compassion isn't talked about when everything is wonderful. It's where you feel, at least I'll speak for myself, it's where I felt the most betrayed, the most hurt, the most harmed, in victim mentality. That's where it all truly matters. And that was where my brother's spirit came through and whispered to me while I was on my way to execute this plan. Don't let her get you too. It was my contract, brother. It's not your contract. Your contract is to share, be, and choose love. And so this is your test.
Wow.
And I broke down. And I'm not a man that would have broken down. That was the first true time in life where my breakdown was almost uncontrollable. And I learned at that point from my brother that the only way that I was going to be able to integrate it was if I died. And I got to be able to understand what death was, to be able to truly take responsibility for living life fully from that point forward. and it's been a process and a continued process ever since. Because in all of these circles that I may be part of, and all of these people that come and they ask questions and they sit around the fire, I'm very open and honest with, I just consider myself a very average man. I may have had not so average situations that have happened in life. And I may have been tested with many, many, many initiations and have been given and earned many, many different names depending on those initiations. But I'm simple, Brad. I'm a daddy. I just want to make sure that our children don't have to look over their shoulder anymore.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that women and men and innocence doesn't have to look over their shoulder as well, and they can live in a good way. And when all of that is taken care of, and when we can be in truth, and when we can have a sense of freedom, we can share in that safety in all spaces for others, pure love is naturally going to be there. It's not something that we even have to try. And so that for me is the mission of missions. And it's very simple. However, it takes dedication every single day to make sure that I know what I'm truly living for. Because I used to be willing to die for anything.
Right.
But now I know what I'm living for. And that's to be an example, and especially for my children.
It's powerful. You said that in our sacred circle. You said, I am here to protect women and children and protect that innocence. Not let anybody cross that line. That's a very powerful mission on top of your healing mission, which I find just fascinating. Let's talk about what a person can expect when they go to heal with ayahuasca, because this didn't happen overnight for you. You had to really work at not only participating in the ceremony, but eventually becoming a facilitator. That took some time. Am I correct?
Yes. Again, it's a little different for me in the Western society, because like medicine work started at a very early age. You know, I grew up thinking my father was a medicine man. You know, he was a methamphetamine cook. But everywhere he went, everyone thought he had the medicine. And everyone thought, and it wasn't just my father, everyone around me was involved in some type of drug or some type of substance that other people truly wanted. So at 8 years old, cannabis was introduced to me. About 9-10 years old, I started having little circles for my friends to be able to work with that energy in a safe space, because I knew immediately that the energies were here to teach us and the energies were here to help us. But we got to be able to create a safe space, and it was not a party.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, all the other medicines came, or not all of the medicines, but quite a few other medicines came quite shortly after that. So all the way through my teens, I wasn't conceptualizing at that point as though I was helping people heal. I was giving people, because I've always had the code. So no matter if I was drinking with somebody and having the spirit of wine or whatever, or if it was cannabis, or if it was mushrooms, or if it was datura or gypsum weed, or whatever it may have been, I was always the one that created the safety for other people to journey so they can come through with the nuggets on the opposite end of it. So then as I continued to travel, and as I was a international wilderness survival instructor, that's where a lot of my healing actually happened. It wasn't even the medicines. It was Pachamama. It was Big Mama, Mother Earth. I was putting myself in front of situations where anyone and everyone would die, but I was creating the opportunity to listen and become one with nature to understand how to flourish and how to thrive. So there's where a lot of my deaths came from. I also had a professional, and still do have a professional dog training company for over 15 years. And it was a way for me to heal, because the majority of dogs that I was working with, it was the ones that were going to be euthanized for aggression. So I got to look at myself in a different light, and not so much as a predator, but I got to look at myself as a confused little puppy who was confused as an early age. And instead of locking me away, instead of throwing away the key and euthanizing me, or euthanizing the dogs and euthanizing the puppies and saying that we love you, but we're not going to get to know exactly what happened, we're just going to euthanize you or put you away. That was an opportunity for me. And I've trained literally over between 5,000 and 10,000 dogs. Every single time was an opportunity for me to show remorse, to show empathy, to show compassion, not only for those dogs, but every single time for myself. And for anyone and everyone that I may have hurt in prior life, because like I said, it wasn't innocent. It wasn't the average innocent person that I would have went after. It was the predator. Right. It was the rapist. It was the molester. It was the drug dealer. It was the murderer. It was those. However, it wasn't the medicine that even got me to understand how wrong it was, because it was validated from so many people at so many times in my life. And I got the accolades, and I had the pretty girlfriends, and I got the money, and I got the pat on the backs and the attaboys, and that we trust you that much more for what you're willing to do. It was the dogs. It was me doing my best to make sure that the dogs weren't being euthanized, and I was going to be the one that put my life and my safety on the line to understand that dog that much more, and to rehabilitate that dog, and to show how we can reevaluate and reassess no matter how toxic we may think something is. But if we get a different understanding of it, and we see that it's not just lost and hopeless because it's confused and acting out, but that we give it a little bit more attention, we get to know it a little bit more. We get to create safety for it to thrive. So I did that thousands of times, and I helped thousands and thousands of people be able to understand themselves better through programming dogs. That was the Trojan horse for me to have thousands of clients even before I looked at it like that with medicine. Now, fast forward just about a decade, I've been able to help thousands of people without the Trojan horse of the dog, simply going straight and direct from my own life experience. And that if this has been able to help, and this has been able to shed light, and this has been able to create some type of harmony with inside of self, no matter how far off some people thought I may have been, well, then why wouldn't it be able to help anyone else? And from a perspective of, especially if you're sitting across from somebody that will not and cannot judge you. And so in that's been some of the ways that the biggest parts of my healing actually took place, even before I knowingly and with much awareness said, okay, Spirit, there's an extreme honorable duty that's in front of me right now. You've given my life back to me. I'm no longer imprisoned inside, which means I'm no longer can be imprisoned from anything outside. And I've been imprisoned. I've been put away like a dog. I've been chained up and tied up. I've been tortured. I've had it all happen in those ways. Now that this honorable duty is in front of me and I'm no longer a victim and I'm a student of love, what shall I do? And how shall I move forward in the most effective and efficient way? And that was to be a man of service and to step into reverendship, and not for any type of accolade of religion, but simply to walk with reverence with every step, knowing that there are going to be times that I trip and fall as well. But if I do my best to no longer be a lone wolf, and I can see that community does matter, and it's what will heal society, is us coming back together and uniting, well, then that's where I'm supposed to be. So put me back in the situations in front of the people where I thrived with, but it was from a different perspective. And now help me go back to my brothers and sisters that may still have some confusion from different things and programming that have happened in their life, and to come with safe space and not judging them, but also with a strength that I know what it's like to be a dead man walking. And now I know what it's like to be a free man living.
Wow. I hope everybody's taking that in. It's a very powerful journey you've been through. And it touches my heart every time you tell it, because we can hear consciousness in you. We can hear the level of consciousness you've worked so hard to attain. And that's the one thing, when we leave this earth, all we take with us is our consciousness, what we learned. And it's very, very powerful. Your life is a living testament to what can be done, what's possible. So I want to switch gears real quick and talk about the process through which the ayahuasca ceremony goes. And I know for me, this was really interesting. And I have to put this out there. I was like your typical Westerner, smoked pot, enjoyed it, drank some alcohol. It was an escapism. And I didn't understand the sacred nature of these plants. And this is what happens in America, and in the Western mindset. It's like, okay, I'm in a hurry. I'm going to grab this so I feel a little better and then go back to work Monday. But the reality is tobacco is a sacred plant. Cannabis is a sacred plant. Ayahuasca is a combination of sacred plants. Peyote is a cactus that they do the tea. And my initiation began with being invited by Tatanka to a peyote ceremony. And now I understand, people don't do these things because, hey, man, I want to have a good time. These are powerful healing modalities that have been put on this earth naturally. They aren't man-made. They are there in nature. And when you participate in a healing circle, peyote was probably the most powerful awakening to that, because what happened for me was I felt like I went through 20 years of therapy in one day.
I hear that all the time.
Yeah. And it was just this cycle. And I really feel blessed by the two women who were Native American who took us on this journey, because they've been doing it for like 20, 30 years. And what started to happen was you take the peyote and you drink the tea and you have your intention for the healing. But then as you heal that part of yourself, all these other traumas are coming up, and you start to see certain things. Your third eye opens up. I thank goodness I've had my third eye awakened. So some people think it's hallucinating, but what is really happening is you're stepping up and out of your body into this new reality that's teaching in the moment, because you've asked it. You've asked the plant to do the healing. You've asked grandmother or grandfather, whatever modality you're using, to help work with you. And I kept seeing one thing after another that I was able to heal in the moment. And then you get to a moment where the facilitator now comes back around to you and he goes, okay, what's the next step? And you do it again and again and again. And the medicine won't let you go until it's done its job. So there is no like, well, it's just going to be, 6 hours ceremony, 8 hours. I was healing right up into the potluck dinner. I wound up sobbing uncontrollably at all these losses that had taken place over the past 2-3 years. And so these are powerful medicines, Hape, Sanunga, all of these, I've participated in them. And I can tell you, it's not what they tell you. It's not the lies they put out there on television. And, this is scary stuff. You don't want to do it. I had a cousin who did pure DMT, and the people she entrusted to do this were not after her best interests. They wanted to control her and do things. So she now runs around and tells everybody, don't do it. You have to be in the right sacred space. And this is what I loved about your work, Bearheart, because from the moment we arrived at the retreat, we were 5,000 feet up, a mile up, in this beautiful, large, just well-designed home, multiple bedrooms. And we came together, we hugged, and we started that journey by deciding two things. What was the intention, of the healing? What were we going to work with? And then the second thing was, what was our visceral animal call? What was that? And I love the fact that you did that. So I want our listeners to hear this journey, because it isn't just showing up and drinking this thick goo. It's like molasses almost. It's really about creating not only the safe space, the sacred space, but being able to have, how can I say this the best way, the safety to scream, the safety to heal, the safety to just get out of this repressed thing that might be in each of us and just let it out. And you did that from that moment on. So let's talk about that a little bit. That journey really is a sacred healing journey.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I'm happy that it resonated with you and that your system was able to really thrive in it as well. You know, again, there's many ways to be able to help heal and to move things. You know, the retreat and the immersion that you were a part of, ayahuasca was being worked with. But even before the medicine, the healing started.
Yeah.
Right. So there's, you know, a big part of what my duty is to remind people that there's medicine in everything. If we can catch the lesson before the lesson catches us, then there's good medicine to it. There is a lot of repression in everyone in the world, specifically with not being too loud, not being too big, not scaring other people, not getting out of control. I'm an advocate of sometimes you need to get way the heck out of control to be able to actually come into a space of here, a space of stillness. There's so much that the average person is constantly lying. We're constantly saying we're okay. We're constantly saying that everything's fine. We're constantly just small talking the people that are around us instead of coming into deep, meaningful conversation. We're constantly not telling our boss how we truly feel. It's a constant. We've been programmed to speak mistruth. And there is an element inside of ourselves that just wants to scream and wants to have safe space to wild out and to make sure that we know that other people can do the same thing as long as we're safe at the same time, and vice versa. So that's one of the aspects of our retreats that I have always listened to spirit with is because it's one of the biggest things that I needed too. I needed a space where I could be my fullness without everyone just shutting down. And that if I could be an example of what it was like and encourage others to find their own flavor of what that release is, it just works. And so in that, all the repression that happens inside of us, all the toxicity that happens inside of us, all of it, if we just continue to hold it and hold it and hold it and hold it and hold it, we're poison, and the medicine that we're giving is usually poison, no matter how happy and kind we may think we are.
Yeah.
Sometimes it looks a little, sometimes the most pure truth looks a little dirty and nasty. And that happens inside of ceremony. So if you automatically come in knowing I'm safe, I have a sense, again, this is probably going to become repetitive and redundant. However, it's something that I am told by spirit. The repetitiveness is one thing that will help us. If you're going to actually have a safe space to have the sense of freedom, to make sure that you can be in your truth, love will naturally appear. We will naturally feel that inside of ourselves. We'll naturally feel that for the next person over, no matter what they're going through. And in our circles, it is extremely important that everyone understands that whatever is happening with you on your mat in your own specific area, that's for you and nobody else. What's happening to the next person over is for them and nobody else. You are not, the only one thing you are not allowed to do is get involved in anyone else's process. And I will be there to make sure that you don't do it. I will be there in a very calm and loving and understanding way to make sure that you remember that you are here to heal, you are here to learn, and you are here to explore. You are not here to have a party with the person over that's going through their deepest battles and their deepest traumas to confuse them even more. And so that is what has created thousands of people to be interested in working with me. It's not how much medicine I've worked with, even though the majority of the time I'm told that not many people in the entire world has worked with the amount of medicine that I have and have remained as grounded and as centered as I have. It's not because of my past and being able to be the big bad bear if I need to be. It's not because of how much love I share and how much intimacy I can bring in every moment. It's because the simple fact is if I'm going through my stuff, I trust that Berhart will not let anything happen to me that will confuse me even more. And I trust that he's going to be there afterward to help me integrate this, because it's, for me, Frank, Sebastian Saputo, Berhart, all the names, it's been about growing a family. It's not about having clients. And I don't see people as sick. I don't see them as wounded. I don't see them as troubled. I see them as perfect. There's a part of themselves that they don't see themselves as perfect. And so if I can be an example of creating space, doing it in my own flavor with my own vibration, then maybe they can step into seeing themselves with a little bit more light, with a little bit more compassion, with less judgment, with less guilt and shame for things that they may have done in life. And when they can be honest about that and speak that forward to the fire, everything immediately starts to aliven. The flower within inside of ourselves, it immediately starts to bloom. And it immediately starts to bloom in whichever authentic way is supposed to come through that medicine person, because we're all medicine people. We are all people of medicine. It just depends on whether or not we've taken that responsibility, that honorable duty, or if we're still medicine people trying to figure out our own medicine and not to pass out so much poison to others.
Yeah.
And so that's what happens in a ceremony. And I'm very cautious to not tell people what to expect.
Yeah.
Because especially if you don't sit with me, I have no idea what you're going to expect, because I don't know the people and I don't know how they walk. But I can say this: if you are open, if you're ready, and you sit in these specific ways with reverence, and I mean the utmost reverence, and remember that the most important thing that you can say is thank you, no matter what energy and sensations must be flowing through you. Thank you, gracias. In the deepest way, the medicine will help you help yourself.
And I can say that firsthand, that it will. And you're right. Everybody's experience is so different. With my sacred journey with you, we did, the initial meet and greet and then choosing our call. But then we traveled to the desert. And this was so beautiful to me, because I had lived in New York City for 35 years to finally, I moved to Las Vegas, and then to drive out to the desert. And it was such beautiful weather. We didn't pitch a tent at all. It was just sacred circle. And we picked our space to shout out whatever we needed to work on. And when I came back, the sun was still out. And you said something. You pulled out 2 large, kick pads for jujitsu. You said, "Who wants to hit the bag?" And I just stood there. I'm a jujitsu guy, so you and I, we were kind of bonding on that, and Mike as well. And the mind me was saying, "Nah, you don't need to hit anything. Everything's fine." But the visceral me said, "Let's just put those gloves on and just get it out." And this wasn't sparring. This was beat, 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 hit that bag till you collapsed. And I literally kept hitting. I don't know if it was 2 or 3 minutes or if it was 5 minutes. You and I forget who else was coming at me. I think it was Ian. Was coming at me with the bag on both sides. And I'm just, whoever was my tormentor, I was just releasing it. And I finally collapsed, physically collapsed. And from that moment on, something weird happened. I started coughing. This stuff was coming up out of me. So you were talking about the healing happening before we ever delivered the medicine. It was beginning.
Right.
And this was incredibly powerful. So by the time we calmed down and we're sitting in circle, and this is a beautiful moment, the sun goes down and the moon's coming up, and you start to see the stars. And it's different for everybody. Everybody has a different place that they do this in. But you introduced us to the medicine by passing it around in a jar and explaining where it came from. And this moment, it's very interesting. People, they're like, introduced to the medicine. What are you talking about? It's like, it's alive. It has a viscosity and energy to it. And
Intelligence.
An intelligence. So it's there to help you. And I've seen, some of you are rolling your eyes listening to this or whatever, but I've seen C-level executives of billion-dollar companies in these circles. I've
Absolutely.
seen soldiers who've been through hell and back, women who've been raped, people who've been through hell in life. They lost limbs, whatever. I've seen everyone in these circles to release this trauma. And I'll be brief about my own experience. And Bearheart, I would love for you to comment a little bit about this, but there was a part of my childhood that I thought I had healed. And the ayahuasca, 15, 20 minutes in, I'm hallucinating, flipping out. And then I said, I'm going to accept this journey. And once I said that, the medicine began to work. And I remember just turning around and uncontrollably hacking up, purging whatever the heck was in my lungs, and getting flashes in my memory of things that I didn't know that my father had done to me and his first kids from his first marriage. My dad played psychological games. And I spent the next 4 or 5 hours, I don't know how long it was, purging and then laughing hysterically at the world that God had created this amazing thing. And I literally could look up at the stars, and the moon had this giant swash of color around it that was purple and blue. And I could see like blueprints of how the stars were put up there. These are the things. Everybody's going to have a different experience. They call it hallucinating, but I don't see it that way. I was seeing the majesty as I was healing. I was letting go of whatever was there, and wound up just having this amazing experience where at the end of it, I was in pure joy, is all I can say. That release lifted 25, 30 pounds off of me in one night. And it's different for everybody. I'm not saying everybody's going to get that, what I just had, but the intimacy, the safety, and I take my hat off to you, Bearheart, because you made sure there were certain people there to support people that were going through very specific traumas. It was safe, it was nurturing, and it was incredibly supportive. And I want to thank you for that. But where did you learn to do that? Because it's an incredibly powerful modality to feel that safety in a group like that.
Good question. I learned from the medicine. Yeah, and just like how there's people that'll roll their eyes at listening to your story, it's simply because they haven't had that experience yet themselves.
Yeah.
Or anything close. And the same ones that may roll their eyes when I say I learned specifically from the medicine, it's because they're not listening directly to the medicine just yet.
It's true.
And so that's where I learned, and I listened very carefully. I've been a student my whole life, Brad, and I am a good, honorable student. I'm in the front of the class. I raise my hand, and I'm ready to take responsibility. So when I'm listening to these teachers for so many years as my family members, because the way that I have been able to convince myself of all of this is that each vibration and each different teacher is the same or similar vibration as somebody that has been in my life, my family, who I've loved dearly. I've never lied to. I've never manipulated. I've listened to. Their advice always worked. And so I paired those people with the similar energy of the medicines. So that is how I listen. I listen to my family member talking to me in the same voice that was their voice. And it always comes through very clear. So that's how I listen. And I've been involved. I've had many teachers, and I've had many different mentors that have done things in their own way. However, the way that I operate is very specific, and everyone will say that because it's specifically coming from the plant itself. It's coming from the teacher. And that way, I don't mimic anybody. The songs that come through me, I don't sing anyone else's songs. When I have elders that say, oh, well, we've heard of you and we heard of these different songs that you sing. Are you singing Lakota songs? No, I'm not singing any Lakota songs. Are you singing this songs? No, I'm not singing any of your songs. I'm singing the song that the teacher tells me to sing specifically. And if you can't understand that, then of course people will be rolling their eyes.
Yeah.
If somebody can't understand because they don't have the same similar life experience of anything close to what your story is and your experience, of course they won't be able to understand it. However, what's actually necessary is for them to have a safe space to be able to go through their own process whenever they're ready. It doesn't need to be forced on them. It doesn't need to be overcomplicated. It doesn't even need to seem like the new best thing. It's when you're ready, I'm here. Or when you're ready, I'd be more than willing to express from my own personal life experience.
Yeah. I literally felt reborn from that experience, because there was a point where I was laying in the desert, eyes closed, flat on my back. I had, I wasn't covered up with anything. I was just, looking up at the stars, eyes closed. And there was a point where I was not breathing anymore. I wasn't breathing. I was just laying there. I don't know. It felt like 2 or 3 minutes went by and I was calm. And a voice basically said, you can leave. You don't have to stay here. Your mission is here. You're done. You can go. You can go on to another reality. Or you can sit up and awaken and create something brand new. And I think I floated for like 30 more seconds. Wait a minute. And I just sat up and took a deep breath. And I realized on that day, September 25th, 2020, I was born again. This is my second birthday.
That's right.
And I couldn't believe how giddy I was after that. And then you had a second evening with the ayahuasca, and I did what you do. I check inwardly. And the grandmother of the medicine basically said, you can take it, or you can just, relax in what just happened. Because I was sore everywhere from my lungs and my throat. I was sore from hacking up for 4 hours. Mm-hmm. And it was like watching a dream. I'm hacking, but at the same time, I'm above myself. And the forgiveness towards my father and everything that took place, my father came to me in that moment, and he apologized for everything he had done to me and my sister. He said it was wrong, and I know that now. And I said, you can leave now, Dad, because he has been dead for many years, and he just disappeared. So when we begin to work with the intuition and the listening to the sacredness, it speaks back more to us. And a lot of people, I have friends who still will not follow their intuition. It's too scary. It's too dangerous for a lot of people. But I've found, and if you listen, you're going to get all these great insights, these deeper meanings and things like this. So we've been going for an hour, and I wanted to ask you a couple of questions so we can get to know you better. But could you tell us one of the great miracles that has happened in your life that you have as this great memory?
A great miracle. I'm gonna be very transparent with you. Every single rising. Not one thing has happened in my life that I'd be able to say, because I now know that every single morning, which I don't call morning, call it the rising. Every rising, I take a deep breath. I know how blessed I am. I know it's a miracle that I've been able to be reborn again. And it gives me an opportunity to choose and decide exactly what I'm going to be doing with that day and with this energy that Spirit has given me, this vitality. I've remembered what I am. I'm love. And to piggyback on the last thing that you said, I feel, at least the way that it comes through, is when we are truly ready to listen, we'll remember that everything speaks. And if we remember that everything speaks, we'll know it's to teach us. And so we'll actually remember that we are the student that we've always wished that we were. And then we'll be ready to learn.
Wow. Sacred words from Bearheart, my friends. Thank you so much for being on Awakened Nation. How do we get a hold of you if we need to get a hold of you?
The best way to get a hold of me is to email me at @bearheart@gmail.com. You can also go on my website, www.eye-ah-WAH-ska.com. I created it very simple and very easy for people to get in contact with me. So it's very simple and very easy for me to always remember the different ways in making this as fluid as possible. I look forward to, and truly just want to say thank you for anyone that's going to be on this podcast. Thank you, brother, for creating this time. We could be anywhere else in the world, doing anything else with anyone else. And we're choosing that you and I are the most important in the world. And we have families. And so I thank you for that, brother. Thank you for creating this time in this space and honoring me in this way. And for any and all of the beloved souls that are going to be listening to this, this work is not about going up into the ethers. You'll have opportunities to see things from different perspectives. It's truly about connecting deeper to here, deeper to our heart, and creating every day just a little bit more aligned action, a little bit more aligned action. And so that way we can get a sense of freedom, safety, and the ability to be in our deepest truth so we can share love purely with everybody. Thank you for being part of this. And I look forward to being able to be in contact if that so interests you and that aligns.
Thank you, Brother Bearheart. You said a mouthful today. Thank you, my friend. And I look forward to seeing you. I hope you get to Denver soon.
I'm on the way.
Nice.
I'm a free bird, brother, and these wings are spread open. So wherever I'm called, I go.
You, me, and Mike will be hanging out.
That's right.
Thank you for being on Awakened Nation, my friend. Take care.
Blessings.
Thank you so much for being a big part of the Awakened Nation movement. This is how you can help me and our extraordinary guests. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And let's grow this movement by word of mouth. Our success will be because of you. Thank you, and see you next week.